What's happening, peeps? Nice wee bright dairy day, man. Fucking better nor that pissing rain. But I've got my class later on tonight, and I need to take my kid after school as well. So I thought I would just jump on because my pal was suggesting a while back. Um, Actually, my pal is in prison, and he was saying, have you ever looked into that Alan Marshall case? No, I knew what one he was referring to, right, but I hadn't really looked into it, and there wasn't any particular reason for that. But this is quite high profile and goes right up the ladder of the prison service. For any that don't know what case I'm referring to, it was a death in custody. Um, this guy Alan Marshall, right? He'd been remanded for breach of the peace and unpaid fines. How the fuck somebody gets remanded for that? I'll never know. That's just taking up space, mate. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not a lawyer or a fucking judge. Know what I mean? Um, but anyway, he was held in Saughton prison in Edinburgh, right? And started showing visible signs of mental health deterioration. I believe that there was kind of reports of hallucinations and this kind of stuff. And this was in 2015. And Alan's obviously been sharing a cell with somebody, right? And the guy that he was sharing the cell with asked to be moved. Now this is quite common in prison, right? Especially in a somewhere like Berlin or wherever, right? Somewhere where you're sharing a cell. If you're not compatible with the person you're sharing the cell with, something's got to have to be done. And I don't mean necessarily violence. I mean like just move cell, fucking I don't know, right? Something because it's bad enough being in prison without sharing an enclosed space with somebody who is maybe getting off mental health, signs of mental health deterioration, or they're coming off drugs, or they're fucking insane. Like you don't know. You're lying there sleeping with one eye open. You know what I mean? But that Alan's mental health signs were actually they were being ignored, and obviously that's no good because what you have is then the symptoms are going to bloom. Do you get what I mean? Like the way you would see a flower growing, blooming, but it's no, there's nothing nice about this. Not I mean, this is somebody their mental health getting into fucking a getting into a horror show or something. Just I wouldn't like to experience anything like that myself. It must be horrible, especially being locked up and you can't get any help. Nobody's taking you seriously. And I don't really know why they were ignoring his kind of mental health issues, but Alan's cellmate had actually succeeded in getting moved to another cell, and then Alan's just completely had a breakdown, and there was reports of him breaking furniture in his cell, right? Now, normally what happens in prison, if you start reacting like that in your cell, what they do is they go and get suited and booted, they get the helmets and the shields and the fucking the Kevlar shit on, whatever it is, and they just rush you in your cell, bend you up with wrist locks and drag you to the segregation unit, the digger, solitary confinement, whatever you want to call it, right? Now, if they staff were aware of his mental health issues, and I believe they were, because, and I'll tell you why I believe that, because sometimes prison officers are a lot like the prisoners in that they watch everything. they know just about everything, and they need to know who and what they're dealing with when they're fucking carrying out their duties, duty of care, all that shit, right? Um, it's just like a mirror image of the way cons act, because a lot of times cons will watch who's talking to who, who's no talking to who, who's doing what, who's fucking getting drugs in, who's fucking doing this and that, hiding blades, whatever. Just people just watch everything that's going on. It's just figuring out the lay of the land, innit? And because it's like trying to navigate a minefield in a way, innit? But I don't believe for a second that the staff didn't know anything about this guy's mental health issues, right? And that could be because they've just written him off as, oh, he's just, they think people are fully all the time, and like, and for the most part, a lot of people are. But at the same time, I've been in jails where somebody's presented in the manner that Allan has, and they've received attention straight away, right? So I can't figure out why they would ignore this guy's issues, know what I mean? But what's ended up happening was when they entered the cell to remove him, they done something that just sounds horrendous, man. They've took him to the digger, and then the segregation unit, but something's happened in there, and there's been like between 13 and 17 prison officers restraining this guy. Explain to me, right? I've been restrained, right? I wouldn't say I'm a big guy, right? Because I've seen big guys, right? But I'm like 16, 17 stone, 5'10", quite broad. And it's never took that many staff to restrain me. I've been in a few carts, right? When I was at YO, whatever. No really, never had one in the adult jail, but plenty in the young offenders. How does it take that many staff to restrain one guy? That just sets alarm bells after me. I believe they were standing on his back and all that, like pinning him down with their legs and all this shit, right? The most disturbing thing that they done was wrap a towel round his face. Now, this is quite creepy. I remember years ago when I was young, I was in Berlin, young offenders, and I remember somebody telling me a story about they were getting carted to the digger with the screws, right? And one of the screws put a towel round his head, and they were punching him in the ribs. Now, I had never heard anybody else ever tell me that apart from this one person. And then see when I read it in the reports of this case, I was like, that's like fucking CIA torture tactics, like waterboarding, 'cause that's what they do. They wrap a certain size of towel around your head. Like, I think they wet it first, like dampen it, and then pour water down you, so it's like simulated drowning, but this must be like dry drowning, because there's no water involved, they're just obstructing your airways. And you know what it's like, man, if you've been fucking, somebody's on top of you, man, and they're sitting on a certain part of you can't breathe. So, what the fuck is all that about? Somebody with mental health issues, and maybe a guy's kicked off, right? He's no in for fucking, he's in for unpaid fines and a breach of the peace. He's no in for murder, attempted murder, any sort of violence. So what's the need for that level of response? And what's ended up happening was the guy stopped breathing, right? So they've had to do a code blue to get the nurses and all that, and he's been rushed to hospital, and I believe he was in a coma for a few days, and then had to switch off, because I believe it had by this point his brain hadn't had enough oxygen for a certain period of time where it's proved fatal or whatever. So, heavy fuck up, man. And this was all captured on CCTV. The prison CCTV must have been leaked because this was all the Daily Record. And you can just see, like, oh, you can tell they're in the seg. Well, you wouldn't know unless you'd been in there. But I've never been in Edinburgh jail. But it's like just the corridor, right, with the cells facing each other. And there's just hundreds of screws all stoning round somebody on the flare. Now, imagine it would be bad enough going to jail and no coming back out, right, if you'd have lived it or whatever, right? But to go to prison for something so petty that could have been handled, you know what I mean, a breach of the peace and unpaid fines, man. Like, what? To get remanded in custody for something like that, and then for this to happen to you, and the remand hall into the seg, is just, I would be fucking spitting blood if that was my family, man, because this didn't have to happen. Do you know what I mean? And I believe that he was a father and all that, and that's the saddest thing. Somebody's not got to see their dad again, do you know what I mean? And that scares the shit out of me when I think about that and my own kid. And I do believe that is one of, if not the main reason that I'm able to live a law-abiding life, do you know what I mean? But there's been a big kind of kick up about all this, right? And what's happened was there's been, what was it, they were chasing I think it was like right, obviously when somebody dies in prison there has to be a fatal accident inquiry, but see, 6 of the prison staff who were the kind of main instigators of this or whatever, they've all been given immunity from prosecution. Know what I mean? Lifetime immunity. How would you need lifetime immunity if you weren't acknowledging the fact that a crime had been committed? Because if no crime had been committed, you wouldn't need immunity, would you? You know what I'm talking about? And that's what makes it just fucking, that's what just makes this case stink to me, man. It's like, we need to give everybody anonymity, immunity, right? And then we'll take it for there. We'll see fucking what's happening with it. It was because I was reading the fatal accident inquiry update online, right? And it when was it dated? I think it was 2018 or 2019, 30th of August, so a couple of weeks before I got out. It says, when tragic incidents do occur, it is essential that appropriate actions are taken in response. Mr Marshall had been remanded in custody at HMP Edinburgh on 2nd of March 2015, having been charged with using threatening or abusive behaviour and assaulting or impeding the police. Mr Marshall died on 28th of March 2015 at Edinburgh Royal Infirmary. The cause of death was a brain injury due to cardiac arrest which occurred during physical restraint. The post-mortem also found that he had underlying severe coronary artery disease. Didn't know that. During the incident, 5 prison officers were also injured and required hospital treatment. Now, what it said there about what he was in for, I read it in somewhere else, it said he was in for breach of the peace and unpaid fines, so this is saying something completely different. Threatening or abusive behaviour can qualify as breach of the peace, but it's the bit about assaulting or impeding police. Well, what did they do? Did they assault them or impede them? Because that's 2 different fucking things. Impeding them's like standing in front of them when they're trying to fucking get your pal or something, know what I mean? They're good with the words, aren't they? The Crown Office has confirmed that there was a criminal investigation following this incident As you will be aware, decisions about who is prosecuted and who is not are taken by the Lord Advocate, who is constitutionally accountable, acting independently of government. Oh, they talk shite. One hand washes the other, doesn't it? The Crown advises that, at its conclusion and having considered the evidence, Crown Counsel determined that there would be no criminal proceedings. For any death in custody where there have been no criminal proceedings, a fatal accident inquiry is mandatory. The FAI commenced in November 2018 and proceedings took place over 25 days. In his determination, Sheriff Liddell makes 13 recommendations about steps he considers might realistically prevent deaths in similar circumstances in the future. I have but no wrap some cunts in a fucking towel, know what I mean? When you're restraining them. Oh, quit, man. Scottish Prison Service has confirmed that in the immediate period following Mr Marshall's death, a number of learning points and specific actions were identified and implemented, including additional training for staff. Wow, man. Wow. Know what I mean? We're fucking... well, that's it, know what I mean? That'll just solve everything, mate. Maybe it's a culture. Maybe it's a culture that's needing change, that's no extra training. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying all prison staff are bad. I know a lot of ones that helped me and fucking were behaved kindly towards me and with compassion and humanity, all that shit. But there's always bad eggs, isn't there? So, where is it? Controlling restraint training is routinely undertaken by SPS frontline staff. Following the FAI determination, the SPS has established a working group to address the recommendations made in the determination, paying particular attention to the recognition and understanding of medical conditions which may be triggered or exacerbated by the use of restraint. What a lot of shite. Know who wrote this? Hamza useless. Fucking asshole. Just government fucking window dressing, man. And see what kind of caught my eye as well. When they were hanging the restraint techniques, they got experts in and they said we don't even know what techniques they're doing. So you ever think to yourself like, what's all this about? And the funny thing is, the Lord Advocate Dorothy Baines said, what was it? The investigation's too broad to lay blame at any one person. Well, I've got one word for you. Art and part. Joint enterprise, innit? Good at doing all us with it. So how does it not apply to the prison service if yous are shouting about a corporate homicide investigation? And somebody came out who was actually in a fellow prisoner who was actually being held in the segregation unit at the time. His hatch was opened. It's like a big kind of plastic glass slit in the door, maybe a couple inches wide. You can see out the door, and he's been sitting watching all this. And I just seen a picture of the guy who died, Allan. It was just horrendous. He was just covered in bruises and all. Horrible shit, man. Know what I mean? The SPS writes to the family. It says it has accepted and implemented 10 out of the 13 recommendations. One of the recommendations that has been rejected is to ban officers from using their feet to restrain prisoners. Don't know if I understand that. It's just fucking, honestly, man, and it's just kind of frightening that somebody can go into prison and it's not even just the cons you need to worry about. It's fucking, it's the staff, know what I mean? Because all it takes is for one of them, or a couple of them, I dare say it wouldn't be one, right, but a few of them banding together. That's a common purpose, know what I mean? And it's fucking frightening to think that you could go in there and no come back out, because they're not even taking into consideration the fact somebody's clearly showing evidence of psychosis, whatever, hallucinations, all this stuff, right? They're locked in prison into the bargain, and then they're just behaving so erratic that staff feel we need to restrain you. But why is there no mention of the fucking the towel on the face? Like, I will do this and we'll do that, but what the fuck? That somebody should have been held accountable for that. And it's what they say, oh, it wasn't just one and all that. And listen to this, right? The decision to give immunity from prosecution to prison officers over one of Scotland's most high-profile deaths in custody was incorrect, new documents seen by the BBC have shown. Allan Marshall died at HMP Edinburgh in March 2015 after being restrained at different times by 17 prison officers. BBC Disclosure has seen a Crown Office review which said the police did not carry out a proper investigation. One hand washes the other, doesn't it? If they had, one or more officers could have been prosecuted, it said. The Crown Office review, seen by BBC Scotland but not published, said the decision not to prosecute the prison officers, made just 2 months after Mr Marshall's deaths, was incorrect. It said the Crown Office's, Scotland's Public Prosecution Service, should have instructed the police to carry out a more thorough investigation and should have obtained independent expert evidence. Exactly, how the fuck can you expect them to investigate themselves and come out with an objective fucking result? Doesn't fucking happen, mate. The Crown Office later decided to grant lifelong immunity from prosecution to the prison officers when they gave evidence at a fatal accident inquiry. The review said this decision was also incorrect, especially as new evidence had emerged by then about the repeated use of feet during the restraint. Allan Marshall from South Lanarkshire was 30 when he died in 2015. He had been placed in remand for 30 days before his next court date on breach of the peace charges. He was transferred to the jail's segregation unit on 24th of March after officers said he had become agitated. CCTV footage shows him being dragged into a corridor and restrained by prison officers. He died in hospital 4 days later. He had an underlying heart condition. The cause of death was brain injury due to cardiac arrest during physical restraint. Some 17 prison officers were involved at various points, and some of them used their feet, which is not a technique that is taught for use when restraining inmates. See, this is what I mean. There's in any kind of government kind of culture like this where there's and it's the same with prisoners. It's like when you see the prisoners doing a documentary and it's like, wee Johnny's going to a visit, be happy tune on in the background. I'm sitting going, you're no seeing what's going on in the hall when he comes back for the visit. Do you get what I'm saying? So what I'm trying to say is there's always hidden parts of this culture, and what I mean by that is, in regards to the prison staff, using towels round your head, putting your foot on somebody's back, that's no being taught. That's their own modifications. Do you get what I'm saying? So they're fucking... Anyway. According to the fatal accident inquiry, one officer said he used his feet 10 or more times and also stamped on Mr Marshall. He later admitted it was totally out of order. The Crown Office, he's basically admitted assaulting the guy then, know what I mean? The Crown Office review of the case said if they had known about the repeated use of feet and evidence of experts like Trevor Henry, they would have made a different decision. Mr Henry is a restraint expert who has been an expert witness in more than 200 UK cases, including that of Mr Marshall's. He told BBC Disclosure that normally a prison restraint should involve 3 officers, not 15. One on that arm, one on that arm, and one holding your head. That's the script, know what I mean? Maybe when they've pinned you on the flare, maybe one holding your feet if you're trying to fucking, like, do a fucking buckaroo kick right to their cootum, know what I mean? Been there, done that. He said, I was surprised when I saw feet being used. I can't think of any other situations where I've seen the feet being used, certainly like that. I felt there was lots of questions that needed to be addressed when I saw the CCTV footage. Asked if he believed the restraint was acceptable, he said, large parts weren't, no. Almost 9 years on, BBC Disclosure has seen Crown Office documents detailing failings in how it handled the original investigation. We took the witness transcripts to Dr. Bernadette McInerney, a forensic psychiatrist with 2 decades experience working with people in high security settings. She said there was no doubt Mr. Marshall was behaving strangely in the days before the restraint and was psychotic. She said he needed to see a psychiatrist. Restraining somebody is a risky thing to do in a person who is over-aroused for any reason, be it drugs or psychosis or exhaustion. They should have stopped it. It would have saved his life. One prisoner who witnessed the restraint wrote to BBC Disclosure in a letter. It said, Allan screamed repeatedly, high-pitched, shrill. He must have been demented with pain. Oof. That's frightening, man. I witnessed the life drain from his eyes. The screws stood in a circle. They looked scared and worried, their jaws wide open. They knew what they had done. Sharon McFadden, Mr. Marshall's aunt, has been campaigning on her nephew's case. A year ago, the Lord Advocate apologised to her in person for the decision to grant immunity, but she's still angry. They were all promised immunity. It's just unbelievable, she said. In March last year, police were told to investigate whether the Scottish Prison Service should be prosecuted for corporate homicide. That's a thing, but if you can't charge any individual, what the fuck do you do if you take the SPS to court for a corporate homicide and then find that they were guilty? What you got to do to them? Nobody's to blame, innit? Can't charge an entity. You can't put an entity in prison. What can you do to it? Fuck's sake. Fine them and pay it with taxpayers' money or something. Pure joke. Miss McFadden feels the police investigation is stalled, but said she would not give up until her last breath. I think what they're doing is they're trying to take their time so we'll get fed up and go away, she said. But I'm not going to get fed up and go away until I get some justice for Allan. Go you. Between 2014 and 2019, there were 135 deaths in custody, but Allan Marshall's was the only one where a decision was made to give the officers immunity from criminal prosecution. Police Scotland has since apologised in person to Mr. Marshall's relatives. Aye, that's that then, innit, fuck's sake. Everything's all better. A spokesperson said, we have received instruction from the Lord Advocate to investigate possible corporate responsibility by the Scottish Prison Service. We are not able to comment further at this time due to the live nature of this investigation. Theresa Medhurst, the chief executive of the SPS, said any death in custody is one that is felt by everyone, but in particular by the family. And obviously our thoughts go out to Mr. Marshall and his family, but currently this is a matter of a live investigation, so it would be inappropriate for me to make any comment at this time. The Crown Office told the BBC that some aspects of the initial casework fell short of what the family were entitled to expect. It said it had learned lessons from Mr. Marshall's case in the way in which custody death investigations were handled, but had been reviewed and transformed. It confirmed it had instructed Police Scotland to reinvestigate, and the family was being kept informed of its progress, but said it was not able to comment on an ongoing investigation. What a lot of shit. So, the police have basically been directed to investigate whether the Scottish Prison Service is culpable in this poor guy's death. How do you think that's going to turn out? The family might get answers, apology. They're not going to get a result. It's just the way these things work with government. They look after their own, don't they? Know what I mean? So see, I found an article for 7th of March 2023, and it was just saying how what I just said, the police have been told to investigate whether the Scottish Prison Service should be prosecuted over the death of a remand prisoner. How what are you going to do to them if you find them guilty? Pure lot of pish. If at the end of the day, if it's one rule for one, it's one rule for everybody. And by that, what I mean is, doesn't matter if you're a cop, a prison guard, a fucking doctor, a guy in the street like myself. If somebody's life has been taken, and there was malice behind it, or there was even it wasn't meant to happen, like a culpable homicide, then somebody has to answer for that. Because where does it? How can you preach justice, right? When it's one rule for them, but another rule for somebody like myself, innit? Like, it must piss that family off so fucking much to see all that played out on CCTV, the big kick up, and then the screws that were involved in it have all got immunity for prosecution. When have you ever heard of anybody in any big trial? Well, maybe one or two, but I never hear of that immunity for prosecution. I know guys, I've heard of cases in jail where two people have been done with murder. One snitches on the other one and blames him, and still gets the same sentence he would have got if he never snitched. So you're like, mate, what are you doing? Like, what is going on? So it's not like they're handing out deals. This is them protecting their own, innit? Do you know what I mean? That's just what I think. If people think there's more to it, or I'm full of shit, or I'm wrong, then that's alright. But I can read between the lines because I've fucking lived in these places long enough, man. They're looking after their end, because it's like, what you'll probably see is, when this guy died, right, I would put money on it. Every screw in that jail was shitting their fucking pants. Even ones that weren't anything to do with it. But what I feel probably would have happened was members of staff would have been approaching management, i.e. governors, first line managers, and saying, how are we meant to carry out our job if somebody's getting violent and something like this happens, and then yous are flinging us to the dogs, yous are flinging us to the police? We've not got to do our job then. They can't go on, we'll just be letting them run riot. So they've closed ranks, do you know what I mean? And any money on it, I would put a bet on that, because that's what I say, they protect their own, they fucking, you know what I mean? You always get like maybe one or two that do the right thing in the end, but still they need to look after themselves first, don't they? Know what I mean? Just a sad case, man. Somebody going into prison for something is kind of petty, is what he get remanded for. He shouldn't have even got remanded for a breach of peace and a fucking unpaid fines and all this, man. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I'm not sitting there saying people can walk about and be violent to any sort of first responders, but you've got to, what I mean is, right, you've got to expect they're not going to put up with that, do you know what I mean? That's just my take. I just take responsibility for shit, you know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be throwing punches at a cop and expecting nothing to happen. Oh aye, I'll just go home, mate, you're traumatised and all that. No mate, well still doesn't give me a right to fucking start swinging digs at you, you know what I mean? But I guess what I'm trying to say is, this whole thing could have been fucking avoided, and the funny thing is, I'm sure I read remands have went through the roof, so maybe they need to start looking at who they're locking up. So what I heard one prison governor say, we need to use prison for people we're scared of, no people we're pissed off with. Do you know what I'm talking about? But I hope that family get answers and they can get a bit of fucking closure through it. But I don't see them getting hangweed for that. This is all just a process for them to make it look like they're doing the right thing by that family, because you can't kill somebody in jail and expect it to be covered up. Or expect nothing to come of it. Doesn't happen. It won't happen. Do you know what I mean? But just be horrendous, that poor guy's wains and all that as well, know what I mean? That would fry my brain. Do you know what I mean? Even just thinking about that, go to jail and like your kids no seeing you again, or getting a phone call one day something happened to you, know what I mean? That's one of, oh, I couldn't, doesn't bear thinking about. But I'm going to need to boost anyway. I've got a couple of wee things today first. I thought my wee boy's coming back from school, get his stuff ready and that as well. So um, I don't know if I'll be on the night anyway, because as I say, my karate class is on the night, and I need to take my son and then come back home, make his dinner, and then I need to go. So I don't know. I'll see how I feel when I come back, man. But I was shattered all day yesterday because I'd had that mad dizzy turn in my class, and I just felt drained all day. And then when I went to go to bed, I was just lying wide awake, man, for a couple of hours. I was like, fucking hell, man, can't win, but just keep showing up, innit? So, you all take care. I'll see you next time I'm on.